give the presentation on the Professor Dr. Venkatesh B, Scientist F, National Institute of Hydrology, Belgavi. He has completed his Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering from University BTG College of Engineering, Davangere during 1988 and completed his Master degree with a specialization in Hydraulic and Water Resources from Karnataka Regional Engineering College, that is presently called as NIT Surathkal, in 1991. Later on, he joined the post of Scientist B at National Institution of Hydrology in 1992, and presently he is at the rank of Scientist F and Head, Regional Center, Belgaum, from 2003 to till date. The Office of Belgaum has been actively involved in providing technical assistance to the states such as Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu. In recent years, it has undertaken studies on forest hydrology to investigate the impact of challenges land cover on the hydrological regime and its impact on the socio-economic of the region. During his tenure at National Institution of Hydrology, he has published more than 180 technical papers in reputed national and international journals, seminars, symposia, and conferences, 40 technical reports, 9 international and national sponsored projects, 10 consultancies. In addition to that, he has been involved in various sponsored projects by Government of India and various other international agencies. He led the editorial board to edit a book on forest hydrology, co-authored by Dr. B.K. Purandara and Dr. K.S. Ramashastri, published by Capital Publishing Company, New Delhi. His research interests are broadly in the area of rainfall runoff modeling, forest hydrology, with special emphasis on dynamic of soil moisture, assessing impact of climate change, modeling of flood dynamics. His work has received extensive funding from DST, MOES, MOEF, UNESCO, Ford Foundation, and Ministry of Water Resources. He has also been a consultant to several organizations, including KPCL, Government of Karnataka, Government of Maharashtra, NTPC, Government of Madhya Pradesh, and NPCL. He has supervising work of 6 PhD students. From 1999 onwards, he has been involved in imparting training to the engineers from Water Resources Department from different states on hydrological data monitoring and processing using dedicated software such as SWDES and HYMOS. He has awarded with UNDP Fellowship to undergo training at University Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom for 4 months duration in the area of catchment hydrology in 1995 and also undergone 3 weeks training on development of decision support system for water resource management at DHI at Denmark at 2011. He was awarded a UNESCO Fellowship to attend international symposia or workshop on forests, water, people in the humid tropics, past, present, and future hydrological research for integrated land and water management during July-August 2000 at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He is the recipient of Certificate of Merits twice by National Institution of Engineers for the year 2011 and 2008. He was honored as a distinguished engineer by the Institute of Engineers, Local Center, Belgavi during the 41st Engineers Day at Belgaum during 2008. A warm welcome for you for our webinar, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, one and all, for inviting me to be a part of the webinar, which speaks about the recent trends of engineering. Before I take up the presentation, I'd like to thank the head of the department, Dr. Nagaraj and Mrs. Sridevi, the convener, and she happened to be my student also, for giving a brief introduction. And I hope I hope that this workshop will have will achieve the greater heights, and will help the students to understand the diverse subject of civil engineering, and of course the recent trends, and the trend in which the research are going on, or the studies are being conducted across the world. With this brief background, I like to start today's lecture, or just a brief about what is floods and its flood mapping and its use. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. Uh, and before I go into the details, I like to mention that if anybody has any queries, it should be a sort of an interactive session rather than one way I'm speaking and you people will be listening. If you have any doubts and any of the slides, you please stop there. You just ask me to stop, and whatever queries you have or the doubts you have, you can ask me then and there only. We'll not keep the question answer. Of course, we'll have a question answer session at the end. Still, if you have any queries to be, anything to be understood, you please ask me then and there only. Okay.
Sir,
Today's pardon?
sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, we have muted all the participants. So
Okay, great.
if there is any question in between, Mrs. Sridevi will be reading out the question to you.
Okay, great. No problem. Great, no problem.
Okay, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Today's, as Sridevi said, today I'm just talking a little bit about floods and flood mapping, which is one of the main and pertinent problem in the state of Karnataka, as well as in many of the urban areas and also in the catchments. I'll just try to give a brief introduction about these floods and the flood mapping, and I'll like to present some of the case studies which NH has conducted. The outline of my lecture is I like to define what are the floods, what is the flood, and what is flooding, types of floods, and the factors which are affects or causes the flood, and what is the effect, what are the effect of floods either at the local scale or the national scale, and what are the various methods available with us to compute the flood values, and the methods available for flood mapping. And also, as I said, I'd like to present some of the case studies which the NH has conducted in the recent times. Before I go into the defining the flood, I hope many of the students, those who are in the final years or in the 6th semester, probably might have gone through this picture, what is called as hydrology cycle, which is a dynamic cycle which initiates its cycle when the water gets evaporated by the radiation of the sun, and it becomes the cloud, and thereafter it comes on to the land in the form of rain. The moment the rain hits on the ground, the hydrology cycle on the territorial cycle of the hydrology cycle will start, which generates the runoff. We lose some of the water in the form of infiltration, percolation. Then the runoff starts. That runoff we capture at certain points, depending on the necessity of it, either by the tanks or by the lakes or by the dams. And then whatever excess is there, it will flow through the river into the ocean. And this is a dynamic cycle which is never ending. It has a complete balance. Okay, I'm just put up different the values here. You not worry too much on it. Okay, when we take the whole of the water available on the globe, one can see that there are about 97.5% of the saline water that is available in the ocean, and about 2.5% of the global water is only a fresh water. If you further divide the fresh water, you can see about 69% of water is is present in the form of either glacier or permanent snow cover, and around 30% of the fresh water is in the form of groundwater, which requires energy and investment to extract the water, and about only 0.3% of fresh water is available in the lakes, rivers, and other renewable resources. And another 0.9% of water is available in the swamps and soil in the form of soil moisture or in the form of other forms. What we talk about the floods is only this 0.3%, part of this 0.3% only we are talking. When we look globally, the total fresh water available is something like 6 to 7 liters of fresh water out of 1 million liter of global water. You can think about how much is the fresh water available for us and how good we need to use it and how efficiently we need to use it. And this 7 liter of water out of 1 million liter of water causes the flood, droughts, and everything, whatever we suffer because of the flood and other things. Now we'll come back to our topic, the flood. What is flood? It is relatively high flow in a river or a stream is called as flood. In the sense that if you look at this photo, when there is a very high flow, which is relatively high compared to the previous one, which is called as the flood. Whereas the flooding is, for example, this is the channel section wherein I define this as the banks and this is our floodplains. When the water depth exceeds these banks or the floodplains and enters into the neighboring area or neighboring places, that is called as flooding. These are the two different words which have relatively defined, because flood is in a particular river section or in a small nala in a town has a different meaning in terms of floods. Say, for example, in our towns, when we have the small nalas or the drain nalas, what we call the big drains and other things, if the drain capacity goes beyond the capacity, the water flowing beyond the capacity of the drain, we say it's a flooding. But whereas we go to the bigger river like Ganges or Brahmaputra or Godavari, Krishna, the length is quite big, say something like a kilometer wide, and the water which is go beyond that and beyond the banks, then we call it as a flood. So flood is in a way it's a relative term. We need to define with respect to the situation, and the flooding is again a relative. When I said in a drain, when the water goes out of the bank, then we call it as a flooding. In a river is also same, but the magnitude and the amount will be quite different. So whenever we talk about the hydrology, we talk about, we always define all the hydrological terms at a river basin or at a watershed. The watershed or a river basin is the one which collects all the water from its farthest point, and all those water will converge at one particular point, which is called as a catchment outlet. The area covering encompassing that particular the point is called as catchment area. Why do I define this is because within the catchment area only we have all sorts of flooding and floods are happening and flooding happening, flood inundation happens, everything. So it is because basically we have the high elevation to the low elevation, the water flows. In India, this map shows where all the flood zones of India. Basically, we have the maximum flood zones in Brahmaputra and Ganges, and some in western part of country where the Narmada and Tapi, then other rivers are there. On the eastern coast, we have Damodar Valley, then Godavari, to some extent Krishna. On the Kerala, we have a very small portion of area is under the flood, especially in the 2018 and 19 after these two incidences. Otherwise, the maximum flooding would be in the northern part of India. That too, it is restricted to Ganges and Brahmaputra basin. Now, let us look at what are the characteristics which are affecting the flood. Basically the factors which are affect the flood are weather pattern and the floodplains, the zone restriction limits to the floodplains, and the dams and levees. See, for example, how the weather is going to affect the flood. As we know, when we talk about the floods, we have this, floods are by weather. It is generated because of the cyclones and tsunamis and other things. When we have a very high cyclonic storms moving on to the land, we have the flooding problem. You know that. Then whenever we define, depending on the floodplains, in the sense that we define the channel and the floodplain, as the floodplain become narrow and narrower, the flooding chances are quite high. This picture depicts that. And then zonal restriction is the same. Like, no, this is basically we talk about when we want to have some sort of a developmental activity. We describe the 1 in 10 year flood, 1 in 20, 1 in 100. Depending on the cases and depending upon the developmental activity of a city or a town, we define what is the flooding for a particular the town. Or we can just zone like this, the area which is going to be covered under 1 in 10, 1 in 20, or 1 in 100, and depending on that, we can design and delineate the flood areas. And the other factor which basically create the flooding is the dam failures, or lake failures, or the tank failures, which recently happened even in Bangalore, where a tank was breached and the neighboring and adjacent area were flooded. That's probably it happened sometime during the last year. And coming to the type of floods, we have various types of flood. One is one second, just a moment. Sorry, there was a phone call. Basically, there are a couple of types of floods. One is the river flood. It is, as I shown in the previous picture, when the water height or the depth of the water exceeds the river banks, then it will become a flooding, and that is because of the torrential rain or hurricanes, or because of the tropical system. The river starts overflowing. That is what is called as river flood. Basically, sometimes the river flood do happen because of the heavy releases or the high releases from the dam. When the dam is receiving a very huge amount of water because of the torrential rain, or because of the hurricanes or the tropical cyclone system, the manager of the dam, they release a huge quantity of water into the river, which causes the flooding. That is one type of flooding. The other type is the coastal flood. Coastal flood basically, this is because of the high tides in the ocean, or because of the cyclone, or the worst is the tsunamis, which had happened in 2004 and 5, which we had a good experience of it. Because of the three reasons, it's only possible to have a coastal flood. The third type is the urban flooding, which is, I hope the Bangaloreans are more frequently being affected by this. As the land is converted from the agricultural or forest into roads, parks, and utility area, whatever water the rainfalls on those areas will have almost 99.99% of runoff, which of course causes the problem, because our drains are not designed to that quantity. The moment water reaches to the drain doesn't have the because of the non-availability of the space, or the volume of water exceeds the capacity of the drain, and thereby exceeding the banks, and then becomes a flooding. It is just because the land loses the ability to absorb water, and it really causes a very high damage or the natural flood. Or we cannot say it's a natural flood, it's a man-made flood, but the intensity is quite higher than the natural flood. And the flash floods are the ones which are causes because of the intense rainfall, and a stream coming out of the steep area will carry a huge amount of water in a short period of time. That causes a quick floods and flooding. That is what we call it as a flash flood. And the other is in the highlands where the snow and ices are covers. There the ice cubes move and block the channel, thereby we get sort of a flooding. That is called as ice jams. And in the urban sector, this is quite possible because we throw all the garbage into our drains, and by the end of the year, before the monsoon, our drains get clogged or choked. Because of that, also we have the flooding, which is similar to the ice jam, or our waste jam is the same as that of the ice jam. And further into the types of the floods, the floods are generated by various types of flood events, like the rainfall events having the single event. It is something like when we talk about single event, this is a very high peak of the hydrograph and then recedes and becomes a sort of a single event. And the multiple event, there is a continuous rains of 2-3 different intensities, and stopping it in between and again starts. So that will be like the multiple events. The seasonal floods, what we normally get during the monsoon, is called as a seasonal one. And the dam break, as I mentioned earlier, whenever our irrigation tanks or dams, medium or major dams breaks, the nearby area gets inundated completely. Such is called that type of floods are called as dam break floods. And as I said earlier, the flood due to drainage congestion is very common in most of the urban areas and even in the towns, because the poor maintenance or the poor design, sometimes we get this sort of a flooding. Further into the I like to just throw a little bit information on the factors which causes the flood. The first factor is when we have the prolonged rainfall over several days, very intense or prolonged rainfall, because thereby the catchment area gets totally moist. Any high rainfall will result in a flood. The second point is the factor is the intense rainfall over a short period of time, which is basically causes flood in our urban areas, where it quickly accumulates at a point and becomes a flooding. And the urbanization, which we know, failure of dams and levees, that is again just now we spoke about it. And the other factor which basically and more predominantly affect is the topography, the ground cover and soil condition. Topography, we change from forest to the agriculture or agriculture into the urbanization, which causes a problem of flooding. And the ground cover, it's more or less the same. And the topography, what happens is that when we are developing an area, we mostly do what we do is the planing, or whatever the undulations are there, the slope is there, we make it a flat slope to construct certain things, like making a road or constructing a big apartments, or building something. Whatever the undulations used to be there, which used to carry the water quite in a relatively higher, relatively faster, because of the flattening of the topography, the water has no what do you say, the gravity to move the water, thereby the water will stand over there, and that probably will have a flooding effect. That is the one. Soil condition, of course, as we disturb the soil condition and its properties get affected, thereby there is a chance of affecting, causing the floods. And as we know, the flood causes damages to many things, and it is because no, it affects our day-to-day life, affects our property and many things. Okay. Locally, if you talk about the effect at local scale, the number of people gets affected. A city drainage system fails to serve their purposes. Drainage carry the polluted water into the good water. Like for example, uh, in especially in our cases, we don't have the storm water drains, and the sewage drains are not separate. What normally we do, we put the sewage into the storm, and whenever we have the storm and sewage goes together. So that probably will pollute our water, and thereby we becomes rendered useless. And of course, in the local scale, it damages the property, and the normal life of the citizen get affected because of the flood. And just I want to recall some of the pictures. This is the one of the picture which was happened sometime in 1980s in London. And again, we know this is the 2004 or 5. This is 4 or 5 flood in Bombay. Okay, this is at local scale. And the national scale, we have a lot of effect on soil water, soil erosion, river flow above the danger mark to traffic congestion, floodwater damage the Hutment fisheries, standing crops, landslides happens, insufficient stock of food and medicine to the cope of the situation. There are some of the effects which we have it on the national scale. Now coming back to, just hold on a second. I'm sorry, because there are a couple of phone calls comes. I'm at home. I'm not at office, so there are some disturbances. Sorry for that. Thing. Now we just talked about, and we just looked at what is the flood, type of flood, what are the possible effect, and what are the factors which causes the flood. But to make any plans or to understand, we need to quantify them. And we need to know how much is the flood in quantity and how much it comes at a very different time. The flood is not the one which comes through the peak will come and all the time, during the flood period. The peak is only one. So we need to understand what is the peak and its time duration. In order to do that, there are several methods available. We start with the empirical method, which probably many of you, the students, might have studied in their irrigation and hydrology, like Revis formula, English formula. Okay, these are some of the empirical formulas which are basically being used to compute the flood. The flood for different rainfall amount. Now we can compute the flood. And the second thing we have is the rainfall runoff models, which basically we use various mathematical formulas and formulation to convert the rainfall into runoff. And we can either do a continuous rainfall sort of a thing, or we can use the event-based rainfall runoff models. When we talk about the flood computation, normally we look at the event-based modeling. So that for a particular event, we develop we compute what is the amount of water, what is the peak and other things. And second thing is the statistical, which is these first two, the empirical and the rainfall runoff models, are the deterministic model. And coming to the stochastic model, we use some of the statistical methods. Within the statistics, we have deterministic method and stochastic method. Here we have what we call it as a flood frequency method, flood frequency analysis, wherein we take the one-day maximum flow of different sections of the river and the river basin, use them to fit a or to a fitter distribution, like you all must have heard about the Gumbel distribution, the general value extreme distribution, log normal. There are many, Pearson, Poisson, and all those things. No, those distributions we can fit and compute what could be the amount of flood after 25 years return period, or 50 years return period, 100 years return period of that kind. So that can easily be done using the both either the stochastic or the deterministic. In the stochastic, we use the time series analysis to understand how the what could be the period of return of a particular flood. Okay, that's how we normally use that. As I mentioned, this is I hope all of you are just watching my PPT and the slides. No, you are able to visualize them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We are.
Because no, sometimes I'm getting a like no, I'm not able to move certain things. Something is coming, so I had a little doubt. Okay.
It's okay, sir. It is well on.
Please move this window away from the shared application. I don't know what is it.
We are seeing it's a no problem.
Okay, it's okay. This equation, as I mentioned, is just a simple equation. Q is equal to A into B, or as wherein A and B are the coefficients which we need to arrive using the catchment area. A is catchment area in square kilometer and the peak discharge. The other equation, we can use the P as the rainfall or precipitation. Using that, having a sort of a correlation or a relationship, we can compute the different return period floods. The rainfall runoff, as I said, it uses to convert or transfer the observed rainfall into runoff. Okay, in this we have both sort of deterministic and stochastic models, wherein we use the mass a continuity equation or in a distributed manner to compute the flood in a deterministic. In the stochastic, we use, for most of the time, we use the probabilistic probability methods and other things to compute the flood. Statistics, as I said, we calculate all the take the one-day maximum flow in a river, that we use it for further into fitting that particular distribution, thereby understanding what are the different return period floods for a particular location or different locations, depending on what sort of a test we do. There are two types of tests basically we carry out. Is one is the ART site for a particular site. When we do it, is called as a ART site analysis. When we do in a combination of several stations, which is called as a regional flood frequency formula. In that, we can just insert a different time period or the return period with the area. We can get the flood for a particular location. So that way, if you have a larger data, we can use it as a regional level, or if you do not have only one, we can do it at site. This is just to give an example. This is how normally we calculate the do the analysis for using the statistical method, wherein we arrange the things from higher value to the lower value, then calculate what is the probability of this particular flood to happen, and then using the formulas we can do that. This is the relation between the flood versus the time period, the return period, and other things. Okay. Now, using that, the floods, whatever we have computed in the previous slides, which I had shown you, now I need to know how much area would be inundated or get affected because of this flood when it enters into our streams or into the drainages. The floodplain zoning is a process of accurately delineating or identifying the place which are likely to be affected by flood due to future conditions, or due to the existing conditions, or due to the future conditions, such as anticipated development in the area, because You know that it is a very good case of Bangalore, where 10 years or 20 years back, that area was pristine. There were no development. Thereafter, last 20 years, development had happened. And no, we can even anticipate that in the beginning and see what could be the area required to leave so as to have a flood-free area, something like, okay. And of course, now we always talk about climate change and its effect. We can project the scenario under the changing climate. Why do we do all these things is because this serves as a precondition for mitigation activity and to enhance the community resilience with regard to the flood. In the sense that we can say, of course, this is not a case in many of our cities. Like in the beginning, as I said, if you develop an area with the anticipated flooding, say I like to develop an area with 1 in 10 flood happens, how much area would get affected in a locality. So now I know that I can delineate, okay, this much area is going to be affected. If it is 1 in 25, it's going to be this much. We can make the people who are living in that area to mentally prepared. Okay, see, this is the particular amount of rainfall we forecast, or we say this is going to happen, then you are bound to get a flood of this event, this amount, and possibly you will get affected up to this area. So they in advance, they know in what sort of a condition they live, and the moment they start getting news in the the rainfall where news in the channels or in the paper, they can assess themselves where do I stand. So that is that sort of a thing is not started in India, but of course maybe in the future we may have them. And of course, these maps provides boundary of actual or potential flood events based on the probability and likelihood, and can be used to help identify and specific impact of flood event. It is a critical tool in decision making for flood mitigation, land use planning, emergency management, and general public awareness. These are some of the basic ideas with which we start to go for delineating the flood inundation mapping. There are 3 types of maps normally we develop. That is inundation map. Basically, it shows how much of area comes under the flood water of a particular return period. Okay, that simply it shows how much is the aerial extent of its influence of area of influence because of this particular flood with particular or a section of a nala or the drainage or a stream, whatever it is. Using this inundation and some of the associated properties, we develop what we call it as a flood hazard maps, which shows that what is the depth of water at different locations, what is the time at which this flood is expected there, and with what velocity. Okay, we get that some part of that being used to calculate or use it to develop this flood hazard map. The flood risk map, wherein we combine these two, the inundation map and the flood hazard map, and we try to identify what are the area which are going to be affected potentially, how much loss would be there, and how much each of these properties are the public utility spaces or private utility spaces or the complexes are vulnerable to a particular level. So this is wherein we give, see, you live in a risk of this percentage, say 10% risk or 100% risk. We can we can classify them and say you are in a X risk area. Say it may be 0% to 100%. Tools available for this sort of analysis are several methods, which are like Dambrek model is there. There is one we call it a SMP Dambrek, the flood wave, breach, HECRAS, and MicFlood. There are various types of tools are available for computing this flood mapping, inundation, and other things. Okay, even including the flood risk map. Basically, many of these are the proprietary items like dam break, SMP, DBK, flood wave, breach, and mic flood. This HECROS is a public, is in the public domain, free to use. Anybody can use that. And maybe now, no, we use rather, there is another software which is called as Stormwater Management Model, SWMM, which is exclusively used for the urban flooding. Okay, that also can be used to map, develop some of the maps, in the urban areas, not in the river basin. Coming to the case studies, recently we have been doing this sort of analysis since last 10-15 years. In the recent times, we have conducted 3 important studies for the government of Karnataka, and as also an academic interest for some of the MTech students. We had studied one Neersagar tank at Dharwad, which was earlier or even presently also they use it as a source of drinking water for both Hubli, Dharwad, and Super Dam on River Kali. This is again an academic interest. And we have another tank near Belgaum, which is called as Rakascope tank. Again, it's a tank which is constructed way back in 1930s and 40s to supply water, drinking water to Belgaum city then, and still we use that as a source of source of drinking water supply. Here I have used the HECROS, which is public domain software, free to use, and with the option called dam or tank breach, and map the flooded area downstream using the thing, using the HECROS. The prerequisite data for using the HECROS are digital elevation model, which is again can be downloaded from the public domain databases like Bhuvan or SRTM, and there are many areas where many websites from where we can download this. And presently it is available only for 30-meter resolution. We can get a 10-meter or less than 10-meter resolution DEM on payment. So here we have used 15-meter resolution data for our analysis, and we require probable maximum flood or flood value of any return period. The probable maximum flood we normally compute using the CWC prescribed method for various river basins of India, and also they have reports for sub basins of the major basins. Or we can use the flood value, which is of any return period using any of the method which I had described above or the previous one. River cross sections of the downstream, which is again a requirement because we need to know how much is the depth of water and other things. Okay. Now for the super dam, this is super dam on the left, and this is what I called as the influence area, which is just upstream of the Bomnali pickup dam. Okay, just I have taken that area as a area which is probably going to get affected. Okay, this is the dam section wherein I had given the what is the width of the dam to be broken, what are the slopes, and no other things. Some of those information I need to give to breach. Okay, once it gets breached, I think somebody is playing with the thing. Okay, once it breaches, I can get a map of water depth, which is how much water will be spread, and what is the depth of water at various sections. You can see there's a water height of something like 100 meter at initial locations, and in few locations, and it goes into something like 0.2 to 0.5 meter away from the dam. And this is a time of arrival of the peak flood. It gives us what is the time period at which the peak flood is going to arrive. As no, anybody say, the closer to the dam, we have the peak passes very quickly. As we move away from the dam, the arrival time will be, gets lower and lower. This is what I was mentioning you, that the vulnerability map, okay, wherein I combine the flood depth, velocity, and other properties, and I develop whether this particular stretch of a river is accessible or we can use during the flood period. And here we have 0 to 10 is the index. Higher the index, more risk is there. So that is what this map explains. And lower the value, the lesser is the risk. That sense, in the main river section, the main river section is not available, or we cannot use it during the when the peak of the flood moves. Similar analysis we did it for the Neersagar tank. Neersagar tank, okay, and here we had used another option to know how much of the area and the people would get affected because of the flood. The other methods or other maps are more or less similar. I just want to show you that, see, when the flood happens or the dam or that particular tank breaches, this is the type of inundation would happen in a different category. Like fallow land get affected by about 0.03 square kilometer. The villages is about about 1 kilometer area. Water bodies and kharif and crops get affected. Majority of the crops get affected. Same sort of analysis we did it for Rakascope also, wherein we computed the depth and the time of arrival of this flood at different locations. Again, many a time we use this analysis to develop what we call emergency action plan, which are a sort of a plans which we need to give to the managers when in a exigency they have to use it. So to develop that, we carry out this. And for the Neersagar, we wanted to know how much the villages would come in, get affected and other things. That still we are trying to evaluate that. That analysis is still being continued. And this is what when we develop a flood vulnerability index, we get this sort of a index. Each index has a different meaning. Okay, higher the index, we have the more you are more vulnerable. So basically, this 1 second. Yeah, sorry, again, I'm very sorry for these disturbances, okay. These maps are being used to identify the critical points at which, which would be get affected severely with respect to property, life, and other social parameter. And as I said, we use it to develop an evacuation plan in the flood affected area. And of course, it's this point is a part of this evacuation or emergency action plan. As I said, these are some of the maps, the analysis we use it to prepare mentally, people to face the flood, and also to give sort of an awareness and preparedness of the people for a pre and post flood situation. Prepare the plan for operating the reservoir or reservoirs in series to minimize the flood if heavy flows are expected. This is just I wanted to put it across to you people. And if you have any queries or any doubts, I'm here to explain you or just reply to your queries. Thank you for patient listening. Sridevi, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think there may be.
Um, And the participants, if you have any questions, you can just put it in a chat box.
Or even you can unmute and no, you can ask.
Sir, we have not given that option to
Okay,
unmute
okay,
to
no
avoid the
problem.
disturbances.
Okay, 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 right. And now you can give the option, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I request all the participants to put the questions in the chat box if you have any questions. I request all the participants to put the questions in the chat box, please. Any questions by the participants? You can type in the chat box the questions. They can be typed in the chat box. We cannot unmute everyone because there will be a lot of disturbance. So I request everyone to type the question in the chat box.
Yes, Siddharameshwar. Ramesh, you can put your question. Does diversion of river disturb the hydrology cycle?
Uh,
Diversion of rivers certainly affect many things, not necessarily the hydrology cycle. When we talk about the hydrology cycle is at a very larger scale. The diversions are at a very, compared to the hydrology cycle, this may be very, very small. But other effects are quite heavy. Like, for example, we may transfer a lot of sediment into a place where there is absolutely no sediment. That causes a lot of problem. Even en route. Ecologically, we'll lose lot many things because see, all the environment is not good, or the environmental condition with which the particular river is there, and you are transferring to some other place which is totally different, then there will be a part, sort of a difficulty in adjusting the eco, especially the aquatic biosystem will get disturbed. So that is one of the point. And as such, of course, in a major scale, if you do, there will be some effect when no, we get a large amount of water into a dry area, how the dry area would behave, because soils are basically adjusted to that condition wherein it sustained with a less amount of rain and less amount of water. But the moment you give large amount of huge quantity of water to the soil may not accept it. Sometimes they become unproductive. This is not my observation. It's a proved observation in soil science. They cannot take amount of water which is beyond their capacity. Okay, in each soils develop according to the environment around it. So in total, what I can say is that the diversion of river would not affect too much on hydrology cycle in a larger extent. Of course, the local level will have some effect on it. Certainly, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any more questions from the participants? So how can we improve flood on pavement?
Pavement? How can we improve flood? Okay. See, especially when you talk about the pavement, there are nowadays we have the payments which are no porous payment. Like no, we have the interlocking system which get absorb water, thereby we reduce the flood, which affect the duration. Yes, exactly. We can know what we can do is that when we have the area, especially the footpaths and other things can be paved like interlocking system wherein the water gets into the ground, thereby reducing the concentration, increase the concentration of time of concentration to a particular place, thereby flattening the hydrograph. That is one way of reducing the effect of flood and its duration into a particular point. Thank you. It's a good question.
And sir, we have one more question.
Yeah.
Can we provide permeable pavement?
Exactly is the same what the earlier question has been asked. No, can we use the pavement to improve the flood? Yes, the permeable pavements are also affect us in the same way as I spoke. I just explained with the interlocking system of pavers, the same as that, because no, it takes all the water into the soil and thereby it reduces the time of concentration of water into a particular place. Thereby, no, we flatten the hydrograph rather than having a very high peak, a concentrated peak in a particular period of time. So that way we can reduce the flood in a way. Nowadays, technology improved a lot, but why still we are facing flood and can't control the flood before it happens? It's a good question. I don't know, Bhumika. Okay. The biggest problem of today, see, I think Ms. Bhumika, you are from Bangalore? Hello? Can you put your, if you are from Bangalore and you are born and brought up in Bangalore,
Sir,
okay,
she is
great.
from Shimoga.
Shimoga. Great. Shimoga, as I know, Shimoga was a very peaceful and a beautiful place in 1980s. In fact, I studied in Shimoga for about 4 years. Okay. Now, if you look around Shimoga itself, Shimoga has grown out of the bounds. You know, it used to be what we used to, like when I was studying in my 10th and 10th standard, what we used to call it as an outskirt. Now it has become a, what do you say, is a center of the city. Okay. Now what we have done in converting this land into a city, we have, first of all, what the porous land used to be, now we have made it as a impermeable land. Okay. And then again, we never give any space for the water to move because we want to construct everything in a very closed manner. Thereby, no, the water doesn't find a place to go through, and it obviously will be either on the road or on the what do you say, onto the gutter. And with respect to the technology, yes, we have various technology, including the satellite technology, which gives us the forecast or the observation. Like no, recently we had last year, I believe, last year we had a cyclone which moved in through the Orissa, where in the earlier cyclone we had around 10,000 fatalities or death. This time when that severe storm with the same intensity moved, the death toll was hardly anything. See, using the technology, they could able to vacate the people from the area which is probably going to move or going to have a landfall. Thereby, it has reduced the effect. Floods, it's difficult to control because floods is not a, see, if it is a natural flood, yes, we can control, but many a times the floods are man-made. Like in Bangalore or in any cities for that matter of fact, we are interested in construction, but we are not interested in giving a space for the nature. But nature do require some space, right? Unless until we give that, where it is going to pass our water, whatever the water generated over the area, it needs a space. So that space we need to give. The technology, we need to use it to get that particular amount of water straight into the drains, and then it should move quickly off the road or from the area. Like in the beginning, I was mentioning, we don't have still now, we don't have anything called stormwater drains, and sewer drains are separate. See, in many areas, even maybe in Delhi, I don't think we have it in Bangalore, and maybe in Delhi, I believe, I have heard about it. Delhi, they have a separate, what do you say, drain system which carries exclusively the storm water. So such cases, what happens, you can have a vent very close, at a very close intervals, thereby the whatever water is generated over an area get into the storm, and then that relatively we can have a flood-free areas, we can say. And is it possible, another person, I hope Bhumika, I answered your question. Is it possible to predict and quantify the ecological rebirth in the path along a diverted river? Yes, it can be, but no, no, it is difficult. But yes, we can do it, but it's a very lengthy process to do it. And I think one Miss Mamta, please stop using annotation.
Sir, no, it is our host who is asking to stop the annotations here
Okay,
on the
right.
screen.
Does movement of
Sir,
tectonic
yeah, I can.
plate are heavy underground?
Water
The
pressure
underground water
responsible
pressure
for
responsible for causing heavy flooding, or this only result in huge waves? Tectonic plates doesn't cause the flooding. See, the tectonic plate and other things will have the, for example, if it happens in the beneath the ocean, it creates a tsunami. Okay, it doesn't cause the river flood, but tsunami floods are quite different. What we had experienced in 2004-5 in eastern coast, that is tsunami. And tectonic plates are does it that causes the tsunami, not the floods. Okay, floods on the land, river flood are sort of thing. Or only this results in huge waves. Yes, it results in huge waves. And underground pressure, it really doesn't affect too much on our river floods. Okay, what I'm talking in my entire presentation was the river flood. Okay, it's a purely river flood. Does the desilting of nalas is going to be one solution? It's a part of the solution. It's not a one solution. Mr. Satish, does the desilting of nalas is
Yes.
going to be one solution? Yes, it's a part of a one solution. Because see, for example, nala, if it is a wider one, yes, wider one, and with the desilting, it's an excellent solution. But in many cases, it so happened that in especially the growing towns like, even forget about other places, even Hubli, Dharwad and Belgaum, what is happening, even many people, they construct their shops and other things on the right on the drain itself. Okay, this is the many places we can see that. So what happens is that under that situation, it's not going to be one solution. It's a part of the solution which probably we can derive out. Exactly. Ballari Nala, you must have heard about it. There is a that has been desilted, silted, desilted. It's happening, but last in 2019 we had a severe flood, right? Again, it depends on how are you going to manage that. If you do once in a while and still you put all the garbage onto the nala will get congested somewhere, and we do have the problem every year, whenever even with the less amount of water.
Sir,
Can
one more
GIS
question.
mapping of river is helpful in controlling the flood beforehand? I can say that GIS mapping can help in reducing the effect of flood. Okay, not control the flood. See, for example, take the example of say, assume there are several reservoirs on one above the other, like in a series. Okay, now the entire catchment is getting a huge amount of rainfall. Now, each and every reservoir people or the managers have to be in touch with them, each of them, and they know how much water, how much amount of water I'm going to release, and how much space is available in my reservoir and the subsequent reservoirs downstream. Okay. If you have all the reservoirs are the more or less in the full condition, and if a first person releases say something like 6 lakh cusecs or no, a very huge amount of water, by the time that water reaches your reservoir, you don't have any time to release your water and make a space for accommodate this amount of water in your reservoir. That time you get into a problem of flooding. GIS map can give you what could be the extent of flooding. Thereby, you know how much is your water level here in your reservoir, and you know how much water is going to release. Then you can alert the people who are residing nearby on the banks of the river. Okay, you are probably going to get affected. You move out of the area. That can be done. Not really going to control the flood. Mr. Khan.
Yes, sir.
Anybody? Yeah, I
Um,
think.
Okay, any more questions from the participants? Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you for
Thank you very
answering
much.
all the questions, sir. And thank you so much for delivering us such an informative session on floods and flood mapping. I'm sure all the participants would have gained more knowledge on this topic, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
very much. Yeah, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for
sir.
inviting me to be part of this. And thank you very much for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Now, I would like to request Dr. M.S. Nagraj Gupta, sir, HOD Department of Civil Engineering, to deliver the vote of thanks for the day, sir. Gupta, sir.
మా దానికి రాలేదు.
Gujarat or somewhere in the northeast.
Hello, Gupta, sir. Hello. Hello.
Okay, sir, I think he has some network problem. Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. I once again thank you so much for giving us such a good session, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I also
Sir,
thank
thank
all
you.
the participants for giving us this participation for today's session. Thank you, everyone. And the feedback link is shared in the chat box, so everyone can submit the feedback for today's session. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. So tomorrow's session will be started at the same time, and that is at 11 o'clock. And tomorrow's session will be on COVID-19 in occupation. And the speaker will be Dr. Pradeep R. He will be delivering the speech tomorrow. And the session will be starting at 11 o'clock. And the link will be sent same as in the group as well as in the mail. So everyone can register to the session. Thank you.